So I recently watched a documentary about Hitler, and I was noticing a lot of parallels between him and Donald Trump. So I wanted to make this video comparing the two and the similarities that I noticed. First of all, I noticed that they both motivate people with money. Hitler was dealing with an economy that was post-war, and he needed to let the people know that he was going to take care of them financially and that the economy was going to improve and that they were going to actually have food on the table again, because they were not getting what they need. They were hungry, and they needed a strong leader to come into power and say, I'm going to take care of you. Meaning, you're going to have food on the table again, you're going to have money, you're going to rise up, you're going to recover from this war. And so the people believed him, and they trusted him. And Donald Trump also motivates people with money, with the tax reform bill and the, promise, like, I'm going to throw you guys a bone. Yeah, it's like the wealthy are going to benefit from this the most, but I'm going to throw everybody else a bone as well. And so when you notice that money back in your paychecks, you're like, hey, Donald Trump isn't so bad. He's all right. And since we have, a good job market right now, good economy right now, everyone's thinking, wow, okay, that's cool. Money tells us, money symbolizes success. And I noticed motivating the people with money is something the dark does. So when I saw Donald Trump doing that, I was like, yeah, that's an illusion. Because that's what the dark does. They motivate people with money and greed and power. And so it makes sense that that's what two people working for the dark would use to motivate people with. Now, another thing that they're using to control people with is fear. You need to be afraid of the Jews. You need to be afraid of immigrants. Fear. Trust no one. And this is actually meant to cause separation, because the light wants people to come together and be connected via the collective consciousness, because that's how the universe is set up. Well, the dark wants to separate people out. The dark wants to highlight people's differences, race, religion, gender, etc. The dark wants to separate people out because it weakens them. So it's easier for these guys to get into power if they can weaken people by separating them, which is what they want. So fear of the Jews, fear of immigrants. Those immigrants are taking your jobs. Those immigrants are responsible for, all those crimes. They're compromising public safety. They have to go. Yeah, so just fear, and fear is the dark. Now, as I said, the cause of the problems are the Jews, and then the cause of the problems are the immigrants. But he's also a racist, so everyone who's not like him is the cause of the problem. And the solution is to exterminate the Jews, and the solution is to deport the immigrants. Separate them out from their families, children, etc. Oh yeah, we don't care if you're a doctor here in the States for years and years and years. Get the hell out. We're going to separate you. And we're going to make everybody really mad and sad and lower everyone's vibration, which makes them an energetic match for the dark, which we love. So, extermination, deportation, and obviously, neither one of them has any empathy towards anybody. So, no empathy. Why no empathy? Because they're both narcissists. Narcissistic personality disorder. It's marked by lack of empathy. The interesting part is they know they're supposed to have empathy, so a lot of times they'll try to have fake empathy just to try to fit in with other people. Hitler thought he was God, and Donald Trump, according to the evangelicals, is, I guess, a biblical king. So he's coming from a place of ego, too, thinking that God put him there when he totally didn't. Demons put him there. God, as a matter of fact, is trying to get him out of there. So, no. You are not God, and you are not a biblical king. And you guys are both working for the dark, so that's just some serious dope smoking right there. Now, the interesting thing that I'm not sure people were aware of, but Hitler was totally into the other side. He was totally into the occult. He would consult mystics, astrologers, etc. And Hitler himself was actually a channel to the other side. Unfortunately, he was a channel to the dark. But when he was fighting as a soldier in World War I, he was sitting with a group of his friends chit-chatting, and a voice inside his head told him to get up and move, and he did. And then a bomb went off and hit all of his friends where he was sitting. That was the dark saving his life, because they didn't want him to die. They still had some work to do through him. And again, you know, there are multiple attempts on his life. Multiple attempts. And I guess he finished his speech early. Like, he decided to finish his speech early, and then as soon as he left the podium, a bomb went off behind the podium. So people were constantly trying to kill him, and they just failed. The attempts just failed. So he was a channel to the dark. He's a channel to the other side. And actually, so is Donald Trump. I can tell. Donald Trump is a channel to the dark, just like Hitler was. He's being controlled by negative entities. You can tell by his free will decisions, because they're all over the place. Trade wars. Like, oh, what should we do? Oh, let's piss off our allies. It's like, that's what the dark does. The dark wants to cause our demise. You think the economy's fine? It's not. It's like me sitting there watching poison being injected into somebody's vein and waiting for it to hit the heart. And while everyone's waiting, they're like, everything's fine. And I'm like, no, everything's not fine. Everything's not fine. He is causing our demise because he works for the dark. Please don't be fooled. He works for the dark, whether you think he does or not. He's channeling. That's why his decisions are so weird. You can see light and dark fighting each other behind the scenes. That's why he's all over the place. It's light and dark trying to fight over that decision. Pure abuse of power. Huge no-no for the divine, man. That's a huge pet peeve of his. Law of attraction. Did Hitler attract darkness to himself as a result of being evil himself? Yes. He was sick in the mind. He was sick in the body. His personal doctor had him pumped filled with medications. He was going downhill. So, yeah. Anxiety, depression. Don't be thinking that this guy was like, you know, living it up. No, he wasn't. He attracted darkness to himself via the law of attraction. Is Donald Trump attracting darkness to himself? Yes, every day you hear about something new flying in his windshield. Another lawsuit. Another accusation. More crap flying at him. Yeah, he's getting it via the law of attraction. He attracted all that darkness to himself. Accused of crimes. Yeah. He attracted it to himself. He brought it on himself. Now, this is a really weird thing to say, and I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me here, but Hitler's power was actually an illusion. Because it was built on evil and falsities, as opposed to truth and the light. So, what was Hitler selling the people here? What was Hitler selling the people here? He was selling them falsities. So, he was working for the dark. So, his entire empire was an illusion, whether people realize it or not. He wasn't as strong as people think. Light overpowers dark, believe it or not. And with Donald Trump, is his power an illusion? Yep. He's the result of a fraudulent election. The divine doesn't acknowledge him as president, and the divine doesn't even acknowledge the 2016 election as an election. He puts election in quotes. So, if you're the result of a fraudulent election and the people's free will was manipulated, well, sorry! In the divine's eyes, you're not really president because you're not aligned with truth. And you can't manipulate free will, which is a huge no-no. So, his power is an illusion too. So, I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to use Hitler as an example is because I asked the divine, I said, so, where were you during the Holocaust? That's pretty bad. Evil took over and tipped the scales, and evil took over hardcore to the beat of 6 million Jews being murdered. Where were you, God? Where were you? And he said, where were the people? He said, I work through people. Everyone has a demon on one shoulder and an angel on the other, and their head is in between. Which way is it going to tilt? That's their free will decision. That's their moral compass right there. He said, I work through people. Where were the people? Said, during the Holocaust, where were the people? They were coming in on trains to be exterminated. It was a global issue. It was known globally. It was no secret. Where were the people? Where were the Americans? Interesting article. What did America know when about the Holocaust? America kept its doors closed to the people for whom they professed sympathy. Anti-Semitism would remain central to American foreign policy even as the nation stared down Nazi Germany. The United States entered the war in Europe, of course, but Roosevelt was shrewd enough to cast the move as fighting fascism on behalf of democracy. The war was about preserving American values, not saving European Jews. Where were the people? Was exterminating Jews okay? Guess so, because they just let it happen. And his power was an illusion. He was weak. Not what you would guess, is it? You would think I'm smoking dope by saying that. But I think you would be smoking dope to disagree with me. Because when I look at Hitler and his army, and then I look at 6 million people, and then I look at Hitler and his army, and I look at 6 million people, and I think, what the hell happened? Really? Really? Because they were all scared. But they weren't overcome by Hitler and his army. They were overcome by Hitler, his army, and everybody else who didn't help them. They were victims, for sure. But they weren't just victims of Hitler and his army. They were victims of all the people who just sat on the couch watching it happen. So I ask you, that takes me to present day. What are we going to do about Donald Trump? When does our moral compass kick in? When does our moral alarm clock start ringing and saying, no, 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 too far, too far, too far, too far. You can't do that. We have the power. The divine told us we have the power because our free will was manipulated. The divine doesn't even acknowledge him as president. His power is an illusion. We have more power than Donald Trump because the divine gave it to us. We have universal energies on our side. He does not. Here's proof. Law of attraction. Yep, he's attracting darkness to himself. That means he does not have universal energies on his side, and we as people do. So we need to start manifesting. My little sorcerers and sorceresses, you need to start manifesting. You start casting energy, prayer, whatever you want to do. But the divine is asking us to demand a second election because the first one was fraudulent. And his power is an illusion. So he wants to separate us, and he's doing a pretty good job because look at how much we're fighting with each other. The dark knows what it's doing. The dark is very strategic. And we fight back by linking arms, pulling together in truth, love, light, justice, truth, 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 truth. Is this guy aligned with truth? No. So for all you psychics out there that seem to insist that he's a light worker, you are smoking dope. Because the truth is the light. Is he aligned with the truth? No. He ain't working for the light. Do a read on his soul. Is it his life purpose to be president? No. And if you say he is, you're wrong. Nope. His ego got him there. And ego is from the dark. Ego doesn't exist in the light. And any psychic knows that. And any psychic knows about the collective consciousness because they supposedly tap into it during their readings. Wake up. I'm getting friends coming to me saying I'm worried because other psychics are saying Trump is a light worker. No, he's not working for the light. He is not working for the light. His higher self is miserable. No. The only thing he's doing is uncovering all the crap. That's it. Otherwise, the divine is making an example out of him with regards to what not to do. Okay? Yeah. No. He's not working for the light. So, my tagline, we are all superheroes. You think I came up with that? No, they did. They came up with we are all superheroes because they want people to get off the couch and they're trying to feed your solar plexus chakra, your personal power energy center. They want people to get off the couch and do something. God's going to help us, but we need to meet him halfway. We need to do our part because the dark took over the United States. I made a video called How the Dark Took Over the United States, which I will include a link to below this one. So you can use that for reference. But the light needs to take back the United States. This is a global issue. We're not teacher's pet here. This is a global issue. We're already poking at our allies. We're already pissing everybody off. And in case you're wondering why, it's like, well, because that's what the dark wants to do. Why not? So that's really the purpose of this video, is to, I guess, question the people. What if we're being tested, guys? What if the divine is looking at us and testing us? How far does he have to go before we actually get off the couch and start screaming and just storm the White House and say, get out? Oh, look, here's the Constitution. That's cute. Get out. Beat it. We don't want the dark in charge of our country anymore. Get out. We want a second election because we deserve it. You're a fraud. And you're also connected to demons. You're also working with the occult. Got some paranormal issues going on there in the White House. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, what can I say? God is a socialist. We're all connected, guys. So we need to come together, take care of each other, and pursue truth with peace and love and light. And more truth. Because the truth is the light. And as long as we follow the path of truth, we will be holding God's hand. And in the meantime, take care and be well. Thank you.